Hey, how you doing? Oh, hey, how you doing? Hey, have you heard of the Florida's #1 hockey podcast, the Cats and Bolts? Are you guys ready? 3, 2, 1.
Oh my God! Do we have music, Ben, or do we not have music? I like it.
Oh, you didn't hear the music?
No, it's all good.
There's
We're rolling.
music.
It's the world's first Italian-Cuban Ben Castro, producer Ben. Everybody, welcome to the Cats and Bolts podcast. It's season 2, episode number 4. Rod Peterson here, Sarina Taylor there, and you can go to the Wide Shot, Ben, because we have a steam company in the house. Stanley Cup champion, Bill Lindsay of the Florida Panthers. Everybody. Bill, how you doing, my man?
Doing good.
Good.
Yourself? Good summer?
Oh, we're great. That's my very first question. Don't worry about us. We've been through this through 3 episodes our summer. How was your summer? You're the guest.
Short. It was really short. June 24th, and all of a sudden, July, August. We played an exhibition game the other night. 90 days on the dot. So wow. 3 months, and you got the skates back on. So I did have some time. Didn't travel back west. Didn't go to Montana or British Columbia. That was odd. Spent some time down the Florida Keys. I caught a tarpon. I caught one. Wow. My journey is to catch the tarpon has finally ended out on my flat one morning, peaceful and calm. And I had about 40 or 50 of them just rolling in this pool that I knew they were at. And got 3 or 4 on. They're hard cats, so they're jumping. I could never get one. Finally got one right into my paddleboard and was able to release it. So it was only about a 25-pounder, but
good for you, man.
Officially got a tarpon in the bag. So that was the highlight of my summer.
You know, Sarina and I have a question about you without giving away too much information. Are you close to Bird Island? Isn't that the place where we thought?
Yeah, well, I call it Bird Island.
Yeah.
There's a place it's mangroves growing out of the water with a bunch of places where I can take my paddleboard and don't have a boat yet. I got to get one eventually down there in the Keys, but got my paddleboard and got all my spots where I know all the fish are going to hang out.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this bird, where all this mangroves are growing out, there's tons of them growing out, and there's tons, and every single bird you can imagine sitting out there. And in behind this little place is a pool that's about 3 feet deep on the edges, but it sinks and gets down into deeper water, and it's almost like the size of a big giant swimming pool. And I know the exact time, the tide charts and everything, so I know when the tide's going out and a little deeper, the tarpon like to feed in this pool, and it's right around Bird Island, right off Marathon. Marathon is the key that I'm on. And got my fishing spots all scouted up. Fly rod now, both, and casting rod. So I'm getting everything figured out.
It's a win-win. That's what it sounds like to me.
Because wasn't the last thing you caught your dad's cell phone that fell in the water?
Yeah, that was probably about it. I've been chasing these tarpon for a long time. Learning how to tie hooks and get everything done on the fly, losing hooks. I've lost a lot of hooks. I've lost flies. So doing all that and trying finally to get these things wrapped around line took some time.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to get to hockey, trust me, but we don't get Bill as often, as you'd like or we'd like. So I got to ask you this. You guys, are you Netflix people, streaming people?
We have Netflix, Prime, and Apple. Okay. And we got a Hulu, but we're going to lose it because it came with our telephone.
Okay, I got you.
Well, we don't watch it.
Thanks, Bill.
We've been tucking into we've been tucking into Bad Monkey with Vince Vaughn.
Okay.
Have you been watching that?
So, yeah, I had to get the permission from my wife. She was gone visiting her family out in Victoria. And me and my dad sitting around at home, I said, "Can we start watching Bad Monkey?" And she gave us the go-ahead. And tonight's the season finale, I believe.
I think there's 10, and tonight's
there's
number
10.
8.
Oh, it's 8 tonight.
Yeah.
There's 10 of them?
Yes.
Oh, I thought we were on the finale.
Ladies and gentlemen,
so we rolled through 7 of them.
We will get to hockey, but this is important stuff we're talking about, because if you don't ask your spouse if you can watch a show, I would never start a show without asking Rod. He would kill me.
Yes, I had to okay it with Carrie, and she might be disappointed because it's set down a lot in the Florida Keys.
For anybody who has watched it or you've watched it, I don't know, we know the distance between Key West and Miami. Don't you think they make a lot of drives between Miami and Key West that nobody would do that?
Yeah, so if you're looking at Miami straight down to Key West, you're looking at a solid 2.5, 2:45
correct.
to get all the way down.
Okay.
Yeah, and they do it every day of that.
And that is traffic dependent.
Yeah.
They're leaving in rush. If you're leaving at 4 or 5, forget about it. You're looking at 3, 4, maybe even 5 hours at times. So yes, the helicopters to cars would be much more.
So Bad Monkey,
viable
2
option.
thumbs up from the Cats and Bolts crew.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a
So
great show.
good.
We
Yeah.
love it. Yeah. Okay, so I will ask you this, man, because we had you on last year 2 seasons ago now when you lost the Stanley Cup final in 5 to Vegas. Has it sunk in now that you won the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, it's settled in. It's been nice. I got some time with the trophy thanks to ownership and Mr. Viola with my dad and everything, and was around it a lot this summer. It's surreal with the parties. The Cove restaurant, you're familiar with it. That's where the training staff, the trainers, elected to have part of their day with the Stanley Cup. So jumped over with them. So I've been around it a lot. The more you're kind of around it, embraced with all the parties, and you're like, okay, it's you just see the joy in the people's faces of the trainers, people around it, the whole organization. The mood has lifted. The fan base. It's been a long time, a lot of frustration. So it has sunk in. The biggest part that has sunk in is how damn hard that trophy is to win. It's I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, how do we go back to training camp if we lose Game 7? How does Paul Maurice get behind a bench after 26 years and get motivated and be where we're at this moment in training camp and say, I got to go through all this again to try and get to that exact point?
It's a lot of work.
How do you rebound? Game 7 and that what it meant and why I was so nervous and why I went absolutely nuts when we won is you're at a turning point. You're at the greatest collapse in NHL history. World War II, no offense, Toronto Maple Leafs, but only 6 teams in the league. So it hasn't happened since then. And you're on the verge of this Edmonton team that's storming back. You're at a franchise that has not had a lot of success. You're in back-to-back Stanley Cups. What are the odds of going to a third? Who knows now? It's wide open. What are the odds of getting... all the cards are on the table in this game. I don't know how you get back from it as a coach, an organization. You have to rebound, but it would take a lot. So no one talks really a lot now about losing the 3-game lead. You did end up winning Game 7, and I guess kind of looking back on all that, it shows you that it's a precious trophy to win, and all these years in hockey, it's the first time that I've been around it. It is brutal.
Well, here's the thing. There's 90 days since you were on this show, and I don't think you'd processed all that yet.
No.
Now you have. And
Yeah.
Paul Maurice said he didn't allow himself to think about losing Game 7.
Yeah.
He said, I haven't even gone there.
He could. Yeah, I don't believe he could.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How would you?
So my question looking forward is, and you must have got it a ton this summer, is how will the Panthers be this year?
They're going to be good again. There's no problems. The core's intact. A lot what Tampa Bay did and what these teams did. You make sure you got your Barkov, the Reinhardts. You're going to have to lose some pieces, which is Montour going away. That's going to be a big loss. Oliver Ekman-Larsson. There's a spot open on your third line with Tarasenko. That could be dealt with in various scenarios, whether it's a youngster, Sammy Skevich, that comes up, makes an impact. If you still want to go out and get a guy, it seems like it's going to be they've signed enough guys. Zito's signed enough guys to having that 5-6 rotation kind of, it's going to be an experiment at the start, but your nucleus is there. Bobrovsky's going to have to come down in some games. Spencer Knight's coming in, played all year last year in the minors on a big contract, second year. So he's going to have to prove his worth. He was with the team throughout the run. So they're going to be a very capable, strong team with the ability, again, to evaluate around the trade deadline and maybe even throughout the season to see where maybe Bill Zito thinks, maybe I can sprinkle in a little salt or a little sugar into certain places.
As a former player, looking back now, is this your favorite time of the year? Like, what's your favorite time of the season? Is it preseason, middle of the season, heading into the playoffs? What's your favorite
It's
time?
not preseason.
I don't like it either, but I'm not a player.
No, as a player, so once I got established in the league as a player and I knew that I was going to be on the team, I don't know how players do it now. Paul Maurice runs a hard training camp. You work on rebuilding all your muscle and your cardio and everything I didn't touch my skates. I wouldn't go on the ice. I knew that everything that was going to come back. So I skated 7 to 10 days before training camp. I needed hockey away. It had to be put. I had to work on everything else, and then you get ready and you ramp back up as a player. And that's why it's so challenging here for these players. I would start the season at 200 pounds, end at 190, somewhere. So you lose 10 pounds of muscle mass. You're not able to put that back on in this short term that you have. So you get excited right out of the gate again. You felt when I went to a Stanley Cup final, the guys that missed the playoffs and players and teams that have been out longer, they're kind of ramped up, really getting going at this. What teams that have gone there, you really tend to get off to really hot starts because it's just that well-oiled machine, just boom, 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 and you still have that excitement. Okay, new season. Where it starts to hit, and you're going to have to watch, is those kind of dog days where you get past Thanksgiving and into November, December, before the All-Star break. What kind of injuries do you have? You're playing Ottawa or Buffalo on a back-to-back, and the legs aren't underneath you. That's where it's challenging. But as far as a pure player standpoint, you're always most excited when you see the playoffs in sight and you know you're going to get there. You're excited. You are excited for the start of the season. It's a new, fresh beginning. The middle is where you earn your money, I would say, as an athlete. That is a pro athlete in the middle, in the grinds of the season. That is where you make the majority of your money, and that's where you find out the true, the true goods of the nature.
You played 777 NHL games. Was it 2 full seasons in Calgary?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Trade deadline. So a full season, and then to the trade deadline. So
you remember Peter Marr, the voice of the Flames?
One of the best.
Well, I love Peter. His thing was game 16 to 30 is when you know what your team is. For what you said, that first 15 is just everybody's burning off excitement. But he goes, it's 16 to 30. Do you go along with that? That's when you know if you have a contending team or a crappy team or you need to tinker a little bit.
Yeah, I would say that because it's an 80% success rate.
Yeah.
If you're at the American Thanksgiving, if you're in a playoff position, 80% of the time you're making the playoffs. So I would say Peter Marr's exactly correct on that point. You would have to sort out and see what your team. Edmonton did it last year. They were behind. We did it the year before.
Yeah.
We were kind of out of playoff position. It can be done. You don't always know exactly what your team is going to look like, but you should. The majority of the NHL teams would have a good impact by the American Thanksgiving of what we're all about.
Were the orders out at Thanksgiving last year?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep, because
They
we had
had to
this
be.
conversation.
But
Edmonton,
you'd fired the coach by then.
Tampa.
Yes.
It was that there was Edmonton and Tampa and somebody else that we had this conversation because I was like, no, they're going to make it. They're going to make it. But I was, crapping myself on the inside. But, Bill, kind of on the same subject of what we were talking about. And I believe this, and I'm not just saying this because it's Connor McDavid, but he truly feels like he overtrained last summer. Mm-hmm. Its training is different now probably than it was, but do you agree that you can blow yourself out? Like, I believe that is what happened. And there's no doubt he did.
Yeah, that's a possibility because you have to really work with the trainers, and now you get the sleep studies and the days off and your ability to push on certain days. The body is not capable of going, especially if you look at Connor McDavid, which plays up 25, 24 minutes a night, almost every night during the regular. It's a heavy workload. So you have to kind of balance and say, okay, where's my rest and how do I? There's training and there's training properly to adjust. So that, and as Connor McDavid goes year by year, and I learned to tailor and tweak and do that. So if Connor McDavid, I'm not going to argue he's the best player in the world. If he felt that he overtrained, I'm going to believe that that's an exact statement coming out of McDavid's mouth. But the season that he put forth, and again, everything that he does is amazing for the game of hockey, out of this world. And maybe it was good for us that he overtrained for one last push in Game 7. But if he trains correctly again this year, watch out, world.
Well, he still scored in that game, and Draisaitl was hurt, and now we found out Evander Kane, his entire body was ripped up. He's going to miss 5 to 6 months.
They just figured this out now?
They're just announcing it now.
Yeah, I think they knew.
They're just announcing it now. Oh, they had to have known. My God, you watched them. They weren't the same guys.
No.
But
so that's us against Vegas. It's hard.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yes, you're playing through duct tape and patchwork. With the Panthers, you're pretty healthy through the run. You go into those locker rooms, it's
ice bags, yeah.
Everything that you put on your body, it hurts. It's mean. The playoffs are violent, and to get through it unscathed is hard. And we were able to do it better the second time around, and maybe a good possibility that happens to Edmonton. If they're a little bit healthier, they're the team that has a possibility of hoisting the cup.
It's a 1-goal game in Game 7.
Yeah.
It doesn't get much closer. It doesn't get closer.
One of the best games ever.
Yeah, it was a good
one. One of the best playoff cup series. You'll remember it for a long time.
The odds makers say the Oilers-Panthers is the most likely Stanley Cup final this year. Could you imagine?
Yeah. Again, the furthest distance apart. It's a possibility. I've enjoyed what they've done. Going out, getting Skinner, Victor Arvidsson. Gives them some balance. That third line got really good for Edmonton when they were able to sort it out. And if you keep McDavid and Draisaitl apart for the most part, the one issue that came up in the games that the Panthers won, the games that Edmonton won, it was 1, 2, 3, 4. They had leads. You could still see behind the bench all of a sudden that Knobloch, when they were behind in those early games, and when they got behind again in Game 7, it's McDavid Draisaitl. It's McDavid Draisaitl loading up. There was a point in the third period which blew my mind. We went through 3-line rotation, a 3-shift rotation, about 45 seconds each. At the end of that 3-line rotation, McDavid and Draisaitl, who started the 3-line rotation, were still on the ice for the Edmonton.
Through the whole thing.
Through the whole thing. And I was like, I don't see this in Pee Wee hockey. I said, God bless these guys. But that's where it shows the testament to the kind of athletes they are.
Wow.
But to the success of the Oilers, when it was really bottled up, McDavid and Draisaitl were apart. The third line was starting to hum. You got contributions from your fourth line. D was good. Goaltending. Skinner was starting to put on a show. They've been looking for it. If they just, even with Arvidsson and some of these additions, I know Kane's out. If they can balance it out enough,
you can see it.
You can absolutely see it. You can absolutely see it.
From your lips to God's ears. But I saw it with other Oiler coaches in the past. When they needed to get something going, they would put McDavid and Draisaitl back together. And that 7th game, Edmonton just couldn't get anything going. You could just see it from the first play of that game that Florida was in control. You could see it. Edmonton could not get anything going, and I think that's why he was trying to. It was
I would too.
Bizarre, but
I would too. They're the best. It's Game 7. They're the best players that you have, and what option? They were still effective late in that third period, generating chances and spending time down in. I think the Panthers iced the puck about 30 times in that third period.
Yeah.
Paul Maurice talked about it. He said our best offensive play in the third period was to ice the puck and just watch the clock, and hopefully it counted down. So I understand that kind of mentality.
As a obviously a long-standing Oiler fan, I've watched, and that game, it felt like Florida had a 4-1 lead the whole game. That's just what it felt like.
Yeah.
Edmonton was not in control. They are so powerful. I think overall, even some of the games Edmonton lost, they played better. There were some games but it was just, you could sense it. As an Oiler fan being there, I could sense that this was not our night. I just knew it.
Well, here's the beauty of, because I played in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Final against the Penguins. I know what a Game 7 feels like with a lot of pressure on the line. And we were going on the road. So here, the one beauty of a Game 7 is once you go into it, is the rest of the series is gone. You don't remember anything. All of a sudden, it's the Super Bowl. It's one game, winner take all. So your mind all of a sudden clears out, totally hits the reset button for every single player in the locker room. We're playing our street hockey game that we played as a kids. This is Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. We're doing it, and what played into the Panthers' favor that I understood that if they could get leads, make this game close, not chase it. And I understood also going into Game 7, you understand the refs are going to put away the whistles. It's going to be played tight and hard. I believe there's only 3 penalties in the whole game, 2 Panther power plays, only 1 for Edmonton. A couple were high sticks. So we got 5-on-5 action all the way. 5-on-5, we're gonna come after you. We're gonna come 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where that Panther team was built, and I understood on the different spectrums of where Edmonton was really good at times. If you got into that power play and let them get some touches on the power play, you were gonna hurt, even if they didn't score on the power play, because all of a sudden they were getting their touches. They were starting to feel good, some of those star players, and they got leads, and they could play their third line. And so leads were hugely important in that series. But into that Game 7 as a player, in your mind, I knew from the Panthers' perspective and from the Oil, you are going to probably see one of the best hockey games that you will ever see, because it's going to be pure, it's going to be void of power plays, it's going to be 5-on-5 action, and that is exactly what you got. And the Panthers were a goal better, but could the pendulum have swung different ways? Absolutely. And early in the series, it's at the end you just don't ask. You don't ask why or how. You just know that's just you won the Stanley Cup.
How much you talked about all the travel in that series? How much did the home ice mean in Game 7? Honestly,
I would say none.
Yeah,
I don't. I wouldn't say none. You look historically, I played in a lot of Game 7s on the road. It meant a lot at the start. It means a lot at the start of the game for Juice, but there's a nervous energy in a building in a Game 7. So even when it was 1-0 and it goes 1-1, you can feel all the nerves of everyone where it goes quiet. You forget to be a fan. So it forgets to get ramped up again. I've played in buildings. I knew if we got a lead on the road in Game 7 in Pittsburgh, when I was playing in Pittsburgh, it went deathly quiet in there. So you never know how important that Game 7 at home. You like to have it at home.
Yeah, you'd rather have it.
You'd rather have it at home. I wouldn't say it's as big as an advantage as people think. A Game 7 at home.
Got it.
Interesting concept.
Yeah.
From a player perspective.
Yeah, you can shut down the noise, because even on that roadside, even in Edmonton, you're so used to blocking out the fan noise.
Sure.
It's just everything just becomes white noise in your head. So to put it in kind of a perspective of if I go back into my recollection in Game 7 in Pittsburgh, I can remember the feelings of sitting on the bench, of sweat, of that exhaustion, that pure exhaustion coming, but never feeling so good. I wasn't aware of a crowd. You're so focused. It is, every shift is overtime. That's what it feels like when you go out there. I would have nerves in overtime or late in the third period trying to protect the lead, but you have those same sort of butterflies and sort of pressure that you have to adapt and enjoy. Billie Jean King said there's no, pressure is one of the greatest privileges that you can have. And that's a true statement. So when I go back, I remember vividly like the exhaustion, the drip pouring down on the bench, just thinking next shift and going out there and just, okay, so wired, so locked in. But puck, you are so zoned as an athlete. There's nothing there's no feeling that is greater in the sports life. I compare it, I've said it, to getting married, people that have children. When you are truly alive as a person, there is nothing else in your mind, and you are totally present in a moment. And the greater that moment is, the more alive you're going to feel. Like you could be driving down the road, listening to a country song and just singing it, wailing, or music, whatever. I listen to country, but a rock song, rock band, but you're living in the moment, right? You're happy.
You're supposed to.
Yeah, so that times you're in the moment. A lot of times your mind is, okay, what do I got to do here? Or even in hockey, you can kind of drift. My legs aren't there tonight. How does this? But there you are at the pinnacle of your sport, and it is the most alive that I've ever felt, and that those players will ever feel in their lives.
Oh.
It's really hard to describe, but it's the ultimate.
Yeah, and they came out on top, which, by the way, it's got heavy in here talking about last year's Stanley Cup, and it bothers her, and I respect it. So
We lost one.
Yeah, you know the feeling.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I'm going home with her, not you. So I want to
Timeout.
What?
All these, just for the record, Panthers fans are like, it's been 30 years. Bitch, it's been longer for us. And we've lost 2 as well in the final, in Game 7. So don't
twice.
think I'm not scarred by this shit.
Yeah.
It's real.
It's real.
Like, it's raw still
Yeah.
from 2006.
It hurts. It
Hence
hurts.
why I'm changing the subject.
Here's the great part of life. If you don't fail,
You don't.
the success
Doesn't feel as good.
It doesn't feels as good. You fail at so much stuff in life. There's downs, there's ups, but the failures along the way. If Edmonton does win a Stanley Cup, all the failures for us in those bad years, down to year when you get the success, it just makes
You
it
can't
feel,
appreciate the light without experiencing the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
there'll be a day. There'll be a day.
Yeah.
Well, you won 4 or 5 Stanley Cups, so cool it. You have it backwards.
It does.
You won
Right.
first, and now it's painful.
Which
so.
is why it's painful.
Yeah.
When you start winning,
know.
you're like, oh, yeah. Here we go. It's
exactly.
easy.
But the thing was, you guys had a really good chat before we went to air about you going on the road in the playoffs. Tampa, Boston, New York, Edmonton. We saw you in Tampa, and you said that rink in Edmonton. Billy was on the road in the playoffs. Talk about Rogers Place.
Oh, goodness gracious. Edmonton, you're proud, loud. It was deafening, Enter Sandman, and coming out to that rink, and I'd heard everything about it. But when you got to witness it firsthand, and that place started to blow up, I was like, goodness gracious, the roof is going to come off this thing. It was not a fun place to lose. Let's put it that way. It's all credit even to our fan base around. Our rink was loud, but Edmonton, that's high octane. It was something for me to be there and witness it firsthand. Everywhere, Madison Square Garden or all these original rinks, but to the Canadian fans, which are sometimes more subdued, Toronto, right?
It's Toronto. They're
Even
sick.
Calgary can be like that at times.
Well, if I was a Flames fan, I'd be crying, not cheering.
Vancouver, I play like Vancouver. Sometimes the decibels go in and out.
Yeah.
Edmonton, that place didn't have an off switch.
I don't think Oilers people in Edmonton care about anything else other than the Edmonton Oilers.
No,
Like,
I don't think so either.
They don't.
No.
Yeah.
There's literally.
I thought they won the Stanley Cup after Game 4. I
Yeah.
walked outside the rink there, and I thought, I had a 5-minute walk,
Oh
not
my
even to my
God.
hotel. I was like, how am I going to get back to
Was
my
it
hotel?
The JW
It was
Marriott.
yeah. It was
Well, it's
bedlam.
funny because Alan May's a really good friend of mine. Al was there. I don't know if you saw him or not. You played against Al,
Yeah,
right? And
I know Alan, too. He's done a
what
good job for a long time.
Oh, he's such a great guy. He was like, he called me. He's like, Rod, I think it's better here now than the 80s. I'm like, how could it have been, Al? And he's from Edmonton, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, they were winning in the 80s. He's like, this is insane.
Yeah.
And you experienced it.
I did experience it.
Yeah.
And I got to experience too, which was great, even from the Edmonton. I experienced it. I also got to experience it from our side, where the losing years, and everyone's talking about our 6 fans, and there was a rallying cry on the towels, us and our 6 fans, to experience not only the attendance in the playoffs, which was outrageous, and it was loud, but during the course of our regular season, to see 17,000 on a Tuesday night against Winnipeg or a Wednesday night against Ottawa, that might not drop. We had 17,000 in the building, and that makes it part of this
Legit,
growing,
yeah.
legit down here too.
Benny, how we doing for time over there? I had us at we're about 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Or
we're about 30 minutes right now.
Okay. Well, I wanted just for fun. You're not an Instagram guy, are you?
I've done 2 posts. That's it.
Okay. I just wondered if you saw.
I got to get into it. I'm going to get into
Yeah,
it.
we need you into it. But the reason I ask is Spit and Chicklets put a clip. I don't know if you saw it of Craig Berube. Just the Canadian media and the Canadian markets, they're 0-2 in the preseason as we record this. And did you see the clip?
No.
The media's in Berube's face, and they're like, is there any sense of panic at 0-2? Can you imagine his face? Did you see it?
Well, yes.
He was like,
but this,
0-2. They you got 60 guys in camp.
guys,
no.
wait a second though. Are you surprised?
No.
I'm not even surprised for a
Wow.
second.
I just think the poor bastard.
Come on. So if I put 100% stock into the NHL season, I put about 3% stock into the whole preseason as a total, and into one preseason game is about 0.01% or maybe 0.0. So you're not even in the realm of. You still got 60 players in camp. You're trying to figure things out. Wow, that's
So did you see the clip?
I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look it up as soon as I can.
It's on Spin Chip,
that is stunning to ask a coach after 0-2, which
Is there a
we
sense
went 0-8 one
The
preseason.
thing
got
is,
great.
there's probably 15 reporters around him. It's Toronto.
Agreeing. Yeah, exactly. And well, the other thing too is NHL Network. Please tell me a fun story about NHL Network. You're at least not in Toronto. You're in New Jersey. You love going up there. Hey?
Yeah, going up to the NHL Network, going up there trying to learn the ropes. It's a big studio. It's got MLB on one side and the NHL Network on the other side. So first time in there, it took me about a good 3-4 times getting out there before I ever knew what I was going around. Almost missed a couple of shows, flat out. So going back and just kind of going through, and I work with Tony Luffman a lot. The best story I had with Tony is he makes me laugh. But one time I did a whole show with him, and I said, "Tommy, this was the best," and he kind of just looked stunned. And Tony's just flat pan. He just flat pan. He wouldn't let me off the hook. And he just goes, "It's Tony." And I've worked with him for 3-4 years, but at this point, and the best stuff is and the best stuff that I enjoy up there is when you're off for the 3-minute commercial breaks, and the guys are just going at it and just ribbing each other. We just have a flat out good time.
Well, you can tell, and you can tell they love you.
Yeah, they're all good people.
Well, they put the camera on you 2 years ago in the playoffs. You remember that, right?
Yeah.
When the Panthers were
This
playing,
stuff
and they
started
put a
going,
camera on Bill, which was great. So everybody loves Bill. They call him Mr. Panther. Stanley Cup champion now, man. Thanks for coming in.
All right, Rod, Sarina.
All
Appreciate
right.
it very much.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
you. Yeah,
Good
yeah.
to see you.
Thanks, Bill.
And Benny,
you.
great job as always, my man. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week here on the Cats and Bolts podcast. I want to show you. Those are my glasses you grabbed.
I got 2 pair. I think they might both be mine.
No, they're not.
Tell me you're still recording this.
I am.
Perfect. Yes.
Oh my God.
Got him.
Whose
Oh my
old man
God.
glasses are these?
Oh, they're still going at it.
Publix.
Don't stop.
Yeah. Mine are so that's
I get
another
it.
story. I was in the Keys the other day.
All right, we're done.
I was in the Keys the other